It's amazing how much whiter it is compared to the other Carta 1300. I'd love somebody technical to explain that to me one day, why that's the case. But at the minute, we just got to say it is. The ViWoods AI Paper. It's been worth another look because there's been a firmware upgrade, and I had to go ahead and update mine manually, which was a bit of a fuss, but that's only because mine was a prototype device. I'm glad to say that a lot of the things that I was complaining about before have been improved. Like for instance, the AI naming, where you can just write the name of a book up here, and it should go ahead and recognize that text and give it the title. That now works perfectly fine. And really, there's a lot to like about this ViWoods, because when you think about the hardware they've actually managed to put in here, this is the latest e-ink screen, a Carta 1300 screen, which, as you can see when I put it next to the Carta 1200 in the Boox Go 10.3, is slightly lighter, and the blacks are slightly darker, so there's better contrast all around. And really, it's surprisingly good how good the contrast is on the ViWoods AI Paper. I really like some of the new drawing brushes. For instance, there's now a nice textured art brush, which I really appreciate. I still don't know why the second button isn't mapped to highlighter. Maybe there's an option to do that somewhere. But for me, the normal fountain pen looks best, just for writing. And what's more, the pencil has tilt, so I will try this out for drawing too. So that's tilt and pressure at the same time. And I can't see any lag when you're doing that with many strokes. And I think ViWoods AI Paper does deserve its place in this list, I really do. I think before, people were a bit surprised that I put it in there, having not had a majorly positive review of it. But I've just been, well, I've got it updated now because mine was a pre-production unit. I had to manually update it, but now it is updated. And yeah, I can tell you they've improved things, the software, some of the kinks that I wasn't enjoying before. For instance, now it works just fine with the title recognition on the page here as well. I still don't think that there's much to say about the sort of AI integration. It's not my thing really here. And well, if I want to use AI on here, what I'll do is, well, I'll install ChatGPT and just use my login and my account of this. So haven't logged in and tried that yet. Would be nice if I could map that AI button to launch any app that I like. That would be useful. But what they have improved is that now you can bind it to Google Play services, and here it is, full Google Play Store. And incidentally, ChatGPT, I can't install that on Boox for some reason, but I can install that on ViWoods. So that's a useful thing. The article generation, the AI stuff, is still pretty useless. So here it is, I wrote evaluate the ViWoods AI paper and asked it to generate an article, and it just made something totally up about some AI model architecture, which had nothing to do with the real thing. So it's not searching the internet, it's not doing anything useful there really, in my opinion. But the biggest update for me is that now they have included the Google Play Store. And there it is in all its glory. You have to go ahead and manually add the GSF ID to the Google database, but once you've done that, it seems to have worked just fine. And that means that you can now log into Google Drive and you can log into Google Docs, etc., which I have been doing a little bit so far today. And when you're in the fast mode, it does work acceptably with a Bluetooth keyboard as well. Although as far as I can see, there's no way to actually stand this up in the case. That would be quite useful. But I've been working on it on an article that I've been writing, so that's been quite good. You do lose a little bit of that great contrast though when you are in the fast mode. So yeah, the Bluetooth typing is acceptable, but it's too slow to respond in the normal mode. However, that normal mode is very good for the core things like reading and note-taking. I'm wondering whether I should actually go back to this and use it for 2 more weeks at work and really get to grips with it. You can see there in a PDF for my lessons, it looks really quite good. And a much larger PDF here, 500 pages, it's managing that just fine. And there's the whole table of contents as well. Very useful for getting around. So it's actually made it a bit more difficult which to recommend to you between this and the Go 10.3. You know, the ViWoods AI paper, it's quite compelling to be honest. And you can perhaps see there, the Go 10.3 has the slightly older screen technology, which is the Carta 1200. Just check that's in its best mode as well. Yeah, that's in its normal mode. And you can see the screen contrast is better over here on the ViWoods. So judging on price, well, the ViWoods is, after a few deductions, is £80 more expensive as far as I can see. So if that is worth it for the hardware upgrades, which are the Carta 1300 and it coming with a pen with an eraser and a side button, which for some reason is mapped to eraser rather than mapped to highlighter. If that's worth it to you, then maybe this is actually worth a shout now, because the biggest drawback was that you couldn't use Google services, and now you can. And actually, if you use my discount code, then you get an extra £50 off, or get an extra $50 off. Kitbets Masters, all one word, is my discount code. So check that all out in the description. In dollars, it's $499 is the sort of price of it, plus $50 off. So $450, only $70 more than the Go 10.3. And the Go 10.3 has been my recommendation for most people for some time. It's got a good performance, even in the case. I'm not seeing much interference with magnets as well. And the other option, not too much more expensive, the other option would be the Note Max. We are going up to about $650 there, and you can see the darker grey on the Note Max is quite noticeable. But for instance, here on the Note Max, I am using OneNote to plan out my live stream for this evening. And you can see that is working really, really well. Books have this optimization where you get this preview in OneNote and then it renders into the actual software, but you don't get that on the ViWoods. So you're stuck with a really laggy experience if you want to use OneNote here on the ViWoods, which is not really usable. But then again, it is there should you need to use that. OneNote though isn't working well on here. So, you know, they are still behind. You can just see it's not going to be a nice use of OneNote, although they've managed to get scrolling working quite nicely, even in the normal refresh mode, the best display mode. They've managed to get scrolling just working just fine. And actually, it is true that the contrast on here is great. The screen, the basic hardware, and that's why it's in that list, because the basic hardware is really good. It is good. It is also as thin as it could be. It's 4.5 millimeters thin. It's Wacom EMR stylus with some really nice, and you've got options of different nibs that you can use. You've got a pen with eraser on the back and function button on the side. Although for some reason you can't map it, or I haven't found out how to map it to a highlighter yet. The Carta 1300 is really good, and it's amazed us all how much sort of brighter this is, the Carta 1300, compared to the, it's brighter look than the Manta, and it's brighter than the Carta 1300 on the Note Max. So I don't know what they've done there, what secret sauce ViWoods have done. ViWoods have managed to make their Carta 1300 better looking than every other Carta 1300 device that I have so far. So I don't know why that is, and they have, and that's why it's still on the list. Its software just isn't quite as mature as the Boox, and that's saying something, and it's certainly not as nice a place to work as the Manta. So it is staying in the list. I think that's correct. It's only got better since I put it there. And then the other option with a Carta 1300 screen would be the Manta. And the Supernote Manta is now my #1 recommend for most people. Although if it was just to be about price, then again, you might look at the ViWoods because it is cheaper than the Supernote Manta. But I think the Supernote Manta is the current superlative in e-ink note taking. For the core tasks of an e-ink tablet, Supernote Manta, that's your #1. But the ViWoods might be a sweet spot for many people. I do love how thin this is, and deciding between that and Boox, even if they were the exact same price, I think maybe you'd still slightly give it to the Boox tablet because their software is that bit more developed than the ViWoods, but it's much closer than it has been before. And I like where ViWoods are going. They certainly have improved the device rapidly since its release, and who knows, in a couple of years' time, this could be one of the biggest names in e-ink tablets.